Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club, your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, Scott, and Martin, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello YouTube, hello internet, hello podcast listeners. This is another episode of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Thank you everyone for joining us this week. We are again having a herd's choice this evening, and we are of course joined by the person who picked the book. It's not for her first time. She's been here quite a few times now. So as well as Shane this week, as well as Martin this week.
Shemai.
We have Connie. And Connie.
Hi.
And you have, of course, can find Connie on, let me remember, Sunstorms and Thunderclouds Instagram, which is one of the hardest Instagram names to remember. But luckily, with this new StreamYard thing, you show it. It's good, so I couldn't forget it. We're not joined by Scott this week. Scott couldn't make it, unfortunately, but we're still going to have some fun, just the four of us. I'm Phil, your host this week, which is unusual. I only host my books, which are, I know to be good books. Is this week going to be a good book? We shall soon find out. When Scott's not here, some things do go awry, and we don't have a little video caption thing to show what this week's read is. So I'll just tell you, it is The Me You Love in the Dark from Image Comics from 2021, written by SKOTTIE YOUNG, art by JORGE Corona, colors is Jean-Francois Bellew, and letters by Nate Pichios of Blambot, which I'm probably not saying that correctly, and I hope Blambot's his name and not like a company.
No, Blambot's a company.
Oh, no, please don't be that. Just be that awkward name. Be like a diva and have a name like that. Come on.
Don't worry, you nailed the previous name, so we'll let you off with that one. It's fine.
That's good.
Really impressed.
Great. Thank you for that. Just before we see who's in the chat, Connie, we kind of fell out of the way of it where the person who picks the book is on the herd's choice, usually would give a synopsis, but for a few months now we haven't been doing that. But let's get back to this for this month. Are you ready to give us a synopsis of this book?
Way to put me on the spot. I can give a quick rundown. So basically this is a 5-issue mini-series of sorts about an artist who has left the city. She wants to find her new voice, so she moves to this like rundown town in the Midwest and rents out this house that no one ever survives in because it's haunted. And she's like, great, of course it is. I'm going to rent it. So she moves in, she spends days and days painting, nothing's happening. She's really having an artist block. And then all of a sudden, the house starts talking to her. Things get a bit weird, and the house is in fact haunted, but not in a traditional way. So yeah, that's as much as I can say without really giving away the major plot, which I assume we'll get into in a bit. So
you say we'll get into it. I mean,
there's not much to get into.
I was going to say, if we get into it right now, it would be done in the next 10 minutes. So we need to try our best to really stretch this out, because this was a super, super quick read. I mean, I started it today. I think I texted Connie. I started at 4 p.m. and I finished by 4:15. It was literally that quick. It was so super quick. And even by that point, Martin, you hadn't started. Am I right?
No, I didn't start till maybe 6:30, and I finished by 7:30, and I was doing something else while I was reading it to her as well. So
yeah, it's super, super quick, super short, super breezy. But was it good? Let's find out. But before we do that, let's see who is in the chat this evening. We have Sean, Panels and Half Pints in evening. We have Triple G Comics, and yay, Connie! I mean, say hello to us as well.
No, I'm the favourite, Phil. I'm the favourite.
Well, it does say this panel just increased in intelligence dramatically. Is that the Scott's not here? Scott, is that what you're saying?
Oh.
Scott? That's horrible. But yeah. There are some more folks watching us live, so do feel free if you read along. Jump in the comments. Let us know what you think of the book. Let us know what you think of the art, and let's have a good chat and discussion going. All right. So first, initial thoughts. We'll go to Shane. Shane, do you want to? Because you read this first. You read this last week or something. You let us know it was a really super quick read. We were worried about the lack of words.
I actually counted, and there are only 67 pages in this 100+ page book with text. So it's a very quick read, but it's an interesting read. I was weirded out by this story and what it was going for. I was a little bit confused as to the allegory. Was it an abusive relationship? Was it what you're willing to do to get your creative juices flowing? Was it what a block can do to you, like a mental break? I wasn't too clear on the overall message, apart from gross ghost/demon sex with a woman with tiny ankles. I don't know. The artist does the same thing in this that he does in MIDDLEWEST, which is the really tiny ankles on a character, which is really noticeable, and it's just a thing that I notice. I'm sure normal people aren't going to notice it. That's just me. But yeah, weirdly interesting, I think I came away with.
That is one way to put it.
Yeah.
And you're right. I should say that there's the same creative team from MIDDLEWEST. I believe SKOTTIE YOUNG, JORGE Corona do quite a few other things together. Some stuff from Marvel, I can't think of the name at the minute. But yes, there was tiny ankles in MIDDLEWEST, and there were tiny ankles and really crooked, long fingers in this as well. Martin, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I wasn't bothered by the tiny ankles. I quite enjoyed this. I like MIDDLEWEST, so I was really looking forward to getting stuck into this. But it was not what I expected. It was very quirky. It was something completely different to what I thought I was going to get. But I came out very interested in the overall meaning behind it. You could tell there was a lot of hidden messages there in the story about, abuse and manipulation and sort of it was those sort of things I walked away with. It was a maturer book than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, see, looking at it now, it's a horror book. It looks like a horror book. The name sounds like a horror book, but for some reason I wasn't expecting a horror book as such, with like a monster. I didn't know what to expect, to be brutally honest, but it took a turn throughout the book. Then it took another turn throughout the book. And then Pete mentioned in the chat here that it started strong but fizzled quickly. I feel like that's where I'm at with it. It felt like a very underdeveloped story. Like MIDDLEWEST, he built this whole world. Like they were traveling through the MIDDLEWEST of America, and you have these weird canisters of pink oil or something. Like there was things that were unexplainable. Here there was nothing really. It was just two people in a house with some random guy shows up to the art, and that's it. But we'll delve into that more. Connie, what were your did you enjoy it first of all? And
I didn't not enjoy it. It was one of those books where it, like Pete said, it started really, really strong. Like the first 2 issues, I was like, this is going to be good. This is going to be really fascinating. Like this is going to be a real twist on the whole haunted house thing. Because did anybody ever watch that movie Monster House that came out in like 2006 or something? It's like a kids animated movie, but basically the house is like a spirit of somebody that had died. And I thought that's what this was going to be. So I was really into it because I love that movie. But yeah, I don't know how I felt about it. The art style, definitely in MIDDLEWEST, I wasn't a big fan of it. But in this, I think it was more suited because it's a bit like sketchier. I think horror comics especially can get away with that sort of rougher edge to them. Like the blunt, long, creepy fingers, the weird shaped bodies. Like it's all very like Coraline-esque type vibes where it's very dark and sketchy and like weird shapes and stuff. I quite liked. I would have liked a bit more background on the characters, I guess. I like knowing my characters, and especially the creepy monster demon thing. I would have really liked a bit of context on why, like what is it, basically, because we never really get an answer. We kind of get a, yeah, I guess that's what I am. When she asks, is he a ghost? He's like, sure, that works. And it's like, no, what are you? Like,
most weeks, as you know, Shane will occasionally rewrite this book. So I feel like this is one of the weeks where we could all probably rewrite the book because there's a lot of space there for more creative ideas.
Yeah,
there's a lot of space for words. We could just put words to the pages.
Exactly. I think you're right with the kind of theme of the book. The art style suits this better than MIDDLEWEST in a way, because MIDDLEWEST, I'm not comparing it to I Hate Fairyland, but it was bright and colourful and whatever else. This obviously isn't, because I quite like the contrast whenever, even though she's in the house and the lights are on, so she turn the lights off, it's like candlelit. It's like a mood, isn't it, the whole through this whole book? And but yeah, overall with the story, we just needed some context. We needed a bit more killings. We needed a bit more. I know.
See, I'm okay. Like, I like films like this, like one location films. They're like a stage show, and I like that. If you can get the right characters and the right dialogue, and you can like, has anyone seen? What's it called? Is it called Devil? Where it's just the people in the elevator, and they're trapped in the elevator, and every now and then the lights go off, and one of them's dead when the lights come back on, and they have to figure out who the killer. That's fantastic. It's the edge of your seat. You're worried. You're just enthralled with this story. And in a single house with a young single woman that goes in there, all of a sudden there's a voice. This is a great premise. This is a fantastic premise for a book to get you hooked. You know, when you hear that voice, and you know there's writing on her canvas, and there's just a voice. And that's what it should have been for a lot longer. We shouldn't have seen anything, no hands coming from the shadows. We should have just heard the voice, and little things happen. So then you're asking yourself as the book goes on, is this real? Is it in her head? Is she doing this? Is there someone in the house with her? It didn't have to be a spirit. It didn't have to be a ghost. It could have been someone in the house. You know, maybe leave it open for, as we like to say, interpretation. You know, is this her writer's block coming out? Did she kill her art dealer? Was there a ghost at all? Was it, you know, exactly, interpretation. You know, I think it needs a little bit more of that thrown in, rather than here's this big scary monster with a massive face and how many arms has he got, and like he's like a little bit of interpretation. I know sometimes I'm like, I want to know the answer to things, but in this kind of situation where little things, where you could, the first issue, have the writing on the canvas, have things be moved, you know, have her wine glass filled, and like things like that. Then issue 2 comes and she starts hearing voices. Build to it. It just happened a little bit too quickly.
That's exactly what I think. Build to it. These little things, 100%.
I think for a horror comic, it needed more horror. I like, not to compare it with Hotel, because I know that that's still a mixed bag in this chat still. But like, looking at what Hotel achieved in, like, I think it's the same number of issues. I think Hotel's 5 issues as well. Like, looking at what Hotel achieved in 5 issues, and then looking at what this achieved in 5 issues, they're both horror comics, and they're not too dramatically different. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's elements that can be kind of compared within the two. And when you think about the intricacies in that story and how eerie it was, and the build up to the final issue where we found out that everything's linked, and, you know, it wasn't people imagining things and all of this, like, we got a bit more of like the creepiness there. I would have liked a bit more eeriness in this comic, because I feel like it was, oh, my wine glass is being filled, I didn't do that, maybe stop drinking. And then in the next issue it was, oh, this house is talking to me, I'm going to go outside, take a deep breath, and go back in. Like, that's classic. Like, that's how you die in a horror movie. Like, if you hear a voice, you're not walking towards it, you're walking away. Like, it was like, I just would have liked a bit more horror for a horror comic.
I definitely feel like things happen too quickly and too easily. Like, it was the end of issue 3, and I texted in our group chat today, like, this was weird. The way she just, like, invites him into bed. It's like, you've never looked at him. You've never seen him. It's a ghost stroke monster talking to you in the dark. Why all of a sudden are you going to have sex with this thing? It became odd, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's my major problem with it, is the monster. I didn't want to see him. I wanted her to wonder, am I losing my mind? Am I drinking too much? is it really a ghost? Like, leave that up. You could have left that right to the very end of the book and had him revealed in the final issue, and then maybe it would have had some sort of impact.
I kind of think like they rushed it in order to get like the message of like the gaslighty manipulative relationship through, but like the comic would have been terrifying even if that wasn't included. And I get that it's probably a bit of a commentary on something, and sure, that's definitely needed, but is it maybe not needed in a 5-issue horror comic? Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe save that for something like Middlewest, where it's about his father's abuse, and, you know, that sort of follows him throughout the 18 issues of Middlewest or whatever. And, like, that fits that story perfectly, because it gives a lot of motivation to why the character does things. But in this, it didn't really, I don't know, it just kind of made her want to escape. But, like, should you not be wanting to escape the demon that you're shagging anyway?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
They didn't need... I don't think they needed
I've been wanting to escape the demon I've been shagging for years, but it's just...
But I don't think it needed the sex part, like the sexual relationship between them. It could have been a friendship relationship that she built with him. It could have been just a friendship thing. And he could have still been obsessive and, you know, didn't want her to leave the house because he didn't want to be alone. But he could have been more manipulative about it. Rather than being aggressively manipulating straight away, he should have been sad manipulative, you know, like, if you leave me alone, I'll have no one to talk to. You're the only one that can talk to me. You're the only one that can hear me. You know, like, start putting those things in her head. So when she does go out, she feels really guilty now because he's there all alone and no one else is going to be able to talk to him. But he just went straight to the aggressive stuff. And it's like, if you're trying to give the message of an abusive relationship, that stuff comes way down the line, because you don't, if that's how you act on a first day, I'm sorry, a normal person isn't going to get into a relationship with you. That's not how abusive relationship and abusive partners work. They show you their good side, their nice side, to hook you. That's how it happens. And the manipulation starts very slowly and very softly. But this was just, like you say, it's 5 issues. I understand they're trying to get the message through, but it just seemed incredibly rushed. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that she would have put herself in that situation.
See, usually I would say 5 issues isn't enough time to really take advantage of telling that in-depth story, but the amount of empty pages where text could have been put in there is a massive missed opportunity, because you could have got that story.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you could easily condense maybe 2 or 3 issues into 1 issue. Because the other thing I find with this book, like the time period in the book was over a few months. We had Halloween and we had Christmas, didn't we? So it was a few months, but it's for like one night, to be brutally honest. They watched a couple of movies, had some popcorn, drank some wine, got it on, and then fell out. Like, that's like one night, you know. But it went on for a few months, but you could have easily condensed a few issues into one and just built the story more. But we'll get into that more detail. I think we'll move on. We've mentioned the art. I think we all are a fan of it and the style of it. And we do have some pages to show off. Should we just get into that, or anything else you want to comment about the art, guys? Anything? No? Okay. So we have some pages from the guys here in the panel. I think Scott sent one in too. I'm not sure. Did he?
He did, yes.
Just for the guys watching live, if you ever do want a page shown on the show for any future episodes, hit us a message on Instagram, let us know, and we'll get it up and we will showcase it too. So we'll start with Scott's. Did he have some commentary to go with it?
He did. He says, it's short and sweet. He says, I really love how it pops out of the margins. So he likes, obviously Scott loves it when the art comes outside of the lines. Scott's never been a paint by numbers, paint inside the lines guy, has he? Yeah.
He does like when it comes with the panel. The fire does look cool, but I really dislike her hands in this picture. We get the crookedness, but like, she's got 2 fingers missing. She's got some sort of other deformity in the other hand. It's odd. But that's the crookedness of this, isn't it? Really, what they expect with this, and yeah. But still, look at the blood on the floor and the guts in the background, which we'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point, because I definitely picked a page for that. All right, Connie, we'll showcase your page, shall we? Go for it.
Yeah. Basically, I love like small American town Halloween scenery. I think like it is some of the best imagery that's used in like horror films. Like Halloween is obviously most people's like favorite horror film, and like the scenes at the start where the kids are like trick or treating or like they're just like walking about in their costumes. Like I love that. I think that's really cool. So where she's sort of like looking out her window, kind of watching it, I kind of like that was included because it felt more like an actual, oh, this is a horror book that I'm reading, because it gives you that creepy little, oh, okay, like that little like shiver. I quite liked it. I like the skeleton face at the top as well. It's quite spooky.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I like that too in movies. That the old, it's like, it kind of gives me the impression of what Halloween should be almost. Not just about getting drunk and watching fireworks. It's about, you know, trick or treating in these amazing costumes.
Fireworks.
Yeah, fireworks on Halloween.
Yeah, fireworks on Halloween.
What? No, no.
Do you not do fireworks? Use English, I tell you.
I don't look up from the sweets meeting, so I wouldn't have fireworks going off.
We do fireworks.
It might just be a Northern Irish thing, but we don't have like Guy Fawkes night, so we probably just do our fireworks early. You guys wait a couple of nights.
Yeah, 5th November, isn't it? But yeah, back in my day as well, Connie, I don't know if you're old enough for this. Instead of having Halloween costumes, you had a black bin liner around you,
or a pillowcase.
Yeah, your face is painted white. Instead of a pumpkin, you had a turnip. Your mum and dad had a turnip and carved the face into a turnip. That's what I used to. That was my Halloween costume for a lot of years in my younger days. So,
is Ireland still in 1908?
It was. It was. It's different now. We're progressing pretty well.
We have Amazon now, so
yeah.
That's how you know you're doing well.
I just say, by the way, Connie is in Newcastle, and I am obviously in Belfast. My broadband is flawless. Where Connie, let's be honest here, she may cut off at some point throughout this episode. Who knows?
Who knows?
Exactly. I will go to Shane. Do you want to tell us about your page?
Yes. I just, like you said, with the lighting in this book is done so well. I know like most of it's dark with just candlelight, and that top panel with just the fumes coming off the candles, it just looks really just eerie and horror-esque. That's what you expect in a horror book. And then you have the middle panel. She's painting, but you'd be excused for thinking that she was murdering someone with the aggression and the anger that she's painting in. You know, like, I think it's just a beautiful page, and it just showcases the art in this book for me.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier on the show, like I'm a fan of the candlelit kind of tone of the theme throughout, and yeah, that's cool. It's a cool page. I quite like Rue, the way she's kind of, you know, she looks like an artist, you know, doesn't she?
Is that a compliment?
Yeah, but like the long dark hair, the big glasses, I just think, you know, would look like an artist. But then I'm not a
scientist.
She gives me like Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter vibes.
She does, yeah, I suppose you're right.
I thought she looked better when she weren't wearing the glasses. I thought the character looked generally visually more appealing on screen without the glass, you know, on the page. That's just personal.
It's like
preference.
a 90s makeover chick flick where she like takes her glasses off and takes her hair down. Everyone's like,
what is that? She's all that.
Here she comes.
She's all that.
That's a great movie. That was one of my first teenager movies, I remember. But yeah, Martin, we'll go to yours. Not because I'm not leaving mine to last. I don't know. Go ahead.
See, I like the design of this demon. I'm a big fan of the Helsing series, and I like the main character Alucard, and it give me sort of vibes of his true form as well. I just like that look. It was very menacing. I didn't expect this from the character when we saw him in the early pages. So to get this at the end of it, I was quite impressed, especially when we've seen things like Saint's Killing the Children, very underwhelming, where this was a lot more scary. This is what I expect to see from a creature from the shadows.
Yeah, this is what should be killing the children.
Yeah. But with something that's killing the children, we have mentioned before, it was scarier when you couldn't see the monster. But when you did see the monster, it was such a letdown. But you're right, this should be it. I like the way this kind of page shows that it's not like one solid shape. It's like a symbiote. It can form and transform and move about the whole house. And I like that.
And this is what makes me think as well. Is it real, or is this her? Is this her? You know, her mental break. I'm on the side that Ro is crazy, and Ro's the one that killed her art professor, and this was she all in her head. She was just completely alone for the entire year, just having a mental break.
I think that too, because even with the ending, when it shows that there's a couple go to buy some art and they find the picture, like open for interpretation. I think you're correct. The only problem with that is I don't think they left enough like hints or clues to really suggest it. I could think it, but there's not enough there to think, is it really? You know.
But then I thought the whole point of that scene at the end was that then the curse will then continue, because then is the creepy demon monster now channeling through the picture instead of the house. Like maybe he channels through things that people put love and time into. So people put love and time into developing the house, and he feeds off that. And then now he's fed onto the picture because that's how she saw the demon, and that, like, she loved the demon when she painted this. So now he's in that, and he'll take it home and then latch onto this new couple and whatever they're up to. But that was my interpretation.
Yeah, see, because with me, I saw that as that was the original face when she needed someone. So she saw him a lot more pleasant. He was like a normal person, and then over the year, he just got darker and darker. So I thought it was just her mental break getting worse and worse over the year. But yeah, see, it gets everyone gets their own ending. So that's a good way to do it.
All right, I will move on to my page, and the reason why I picked this, it's the one and only laugh out loud moment that I literally stopped, and I probably spent more time laughing at this page than I did to read the whole book. So whenever her little friend Addie or Addison was killed, and he's like, "It's okay, we'll pick him up," and it shows him, it just speaks like a puppet.
I brought him back.
Yeah, it's just I brought him back for you. And this isn't meant to be a comedy book, of course, but I could not help but laugh my balls off at this page, just for how stupid and out of place it was. But it was really funny. I can't get past it. It was hilarious. No.
Can we just write? Sorry, go on, mine.
No, I'll say it just shows that creature had no concept of what he'd done.
Yeah.
It wasn't human. It had no human emotion in that respect, because it just thought, well, hang on, don't worry, I'll pick it back up. Here it is.
It's okay. Here's his head. It's like moving. It's talking to you.
He's like, I'm pushing the insides back in as well. Look at the middle. You can see he's trying to push the guts back in.
Yeah,
it's like when you break someone's
the intestines. Yeah, it's
when you break someone's favorite mug and you hold the handle. You look, I can fix it. I just need some super glue. I can fix it.
But yeah, this just had me in stitches, and that's why I picked the book. And I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised Shane didn't pick this. To be honest, I thought this was a Shane page all day long.
Well, I mean, I think Connie will agree with me here. Phil, you had a problem with the face peeling off the ceiling in Hotel, and yet you picked this gross page from this book.
Phil, yes. I hate gore when it suits me, apparently.
No. With that Hotel book, there's context. There's meaning behind those killings. This is funny. This was done in a funny way. Like, he's holding his large.
Not for Rome. For Rome, this is traumatizing.
Yeah, but for the reader, I mean, there's no imagery of a man butchering his wife, and if the face hanging like dripping, like if the husband had to pick the face up and go, "Oh, hello, darling, what's for tea tonight?" Then maybe I would have laughed at that,
A demon holding a dead body with its guts spilling out like a marionette. But no, it's not gory at all.
It's not. It's hilarious.
I think Phil's a sexist. He's okay seeing gore when men are all gory up and all. It's women Phil doesn't want to see. Yeah.
Then, like I said, this person, you didn't know this character. He was killed by a monster, not by his husband or his wife or whatever. So
humans are the worst monsters in horror movies.
100%, but it's different. It's different. So just allow me to have this, please. Hotel was just creepy. This wasn't creepy at all. Yeah,
creepy.
This
one look, hi, Ro, I'm back. I brought him back for you. That's not creepy at all, is it? Not creepy at all.
Why aren't you happy?
Not for the reader. Do you love me now? It's so
I do love the way he tells her to paint as well after that, and then he just slowly drags the body out so she can be alone because she needs her privacy.
That's what I mean. In one of the pages, I think it was Scott's page. You could see the guts and things in the background. He's like dragging this dead body around, trying to mend it for her. Oh, it's brilliant. Let me catch up with some comments here before I get lost. Triple G Comics has said, the ankle talk is upsetting me. Haven't seen his in years. You just been the ankles or anything else? And he does mention, it's like, perhaps it was the old Marvel method, but they forgot to hand it to the writer. That was due to the fact that there's very little words in this. As Shane did have stats, 67 pages. With dialogue or without, sorry. That's with
67 pages with dialogue. I think it's 104 pages in this book without all the covers and stuff. So that's a big chunk without text.
Do you know I found a bit? It wasn't every issue. I'm trying to think now, but when you think that it's ended, when you think the story is ended, there was a black page, but then there's a bit of story after the black. They usually get the black end page. That's it. Like there was more behind it. It's like, why do that? Just makes me think that's the end of the book, but it's not really. But it's not like a post-credit scene. It's not something you sit behind with your popcorn and wait to see. Just give me the whole flipping thing.
I think that was like spoilers for the next issue, because was it issue 2, the post-credit scene was her sitting in the bath with like her head on like the ledge of the bath, but then that happens in the next issue too, where she's sitting like that as well. So I think that was like a little like spoiler, like this is what's coming. But like sorry, I was going to talk about the empty space.
Talk about it.
Go for it.
Do you think that they were attempting to do? So the scariest bit for me in horror movies is always when it's like deadly silent, because you're waiting for something to happen, like you're waiting for like the bang or the jump scare or the build in the music to let you know something's coming. Do you think they were maybe trying to be like, oh crap, we told Image that we would have these 5 issues done, so Jorge, like, you work away, you draw them, I'll think quickly about a story, blah blah blah, and then they're like, okay, we don't have enough words, let's use empty space to creep the reader out a bit, because it had that sort of white line drifting through as if it was like maybe something was going to happen, but then I feel like nothing actually did happen and it was wasted.
I think it could. Talking about white line, that was her music playing.
Yeah, it was cool.
Why did they not just use music notes?
Because it was art supplies. It was it was the spatula and the.
I didn't look at it that much. I was like, oh right, whatever.
I thought that was quite clever, actually. I gave him props for that.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying with the silence. That is the best. That is a good part. But then something does have to happen for that silence to be warranted. Yeah.
But on that, one of the issues was whenever Addison or Addie was about to be murdered, she says he's behind you, or whatever it was. You didn't actually see the murder. You didn't see him get slaughtered because it has the black page, and then you move on to the next issue. And if I'm being honest, I don't like gore, as we've already established, unless it's hilarious.
Tell that to your mate.
But I kind of wish we had a queen to death to see what the monster was actually capable of in terms of how does he kill these people? How does he do it?
But see, doesn't that again leave it open to interpretation that maybe she killed him, maybe Ro killed him?
Possibly.
Because if you didn't see it
brutal
happen,
yeah, because he was mangled. He was gutted.
Yeah, like it wasn't like a subtle stab, or like it was like mangled. Like,
did you not think that most of this book was for your interpretation because of the lack of words? It was sort of like fill the blanks.
Yeah, you write your own story to the images, really, couldn't you? Yeah.
Because
it's like one of those choose your own adventure things. Like, get to the bottom of the page, skip the last page. Like,
go on.
Sorry, I would say for a horror book, I just felt like this didn't build suspense. There was no suspense.
No, there was nothing.
No, because she tells her the house is haunted, so we're already expecting a haunted house. So it's like, why tell her? Don't tell her that. Don't tell us that. Just let us see, because when you're watching a movie and they go to the house, if they don't tell you what the house is going to do, then you're surprised when the house does the thing. But if they tell you at the beginning of the film, oh, it's a haunted house and the husband killed all his kids in the house with an axe, and if you stay there for a week, you're going to kill all your kids with an axe. And then at the end, he kills all his kids with an axe. So, but I didn't need to watch that. You told me at the beginning. And so they tell her it's haunted. She goes in there looking for a ghost, trying to get the ghost to come out. She's talking. So if you're going to tell us it's a haunted house, then have it not be a haunted house. Have it be someone living in the walls. Do you know what I mean? Have it be someone, have it be a human. And then that way you get the dread then, because it's something that is not supernatural. You then get that, it's that fear where it could happen to you. You know? When
Make it like that movie, The Boy, where she thinks it's haunted and it's not, and he's just in the wall. Yeah, that was a good movie.
I've got chills. Like, that film is just so creepy. Those films scare the hell out of me because it could happen. You know, I have an attic. Someone could be living in my attic and I wouldn't know. That's scary. But a demon, a ghost, like I watch them. I enjoy them. I enjoy reading about them. But it doesn't get me like that. That would give me chills. Every time she comes down, there's something on her canvas. There's a flower waiting for her. She can think that it's a ghost for the whole 4 issues. But then the 5th issue, you find out she finds, I don't know, maybe she finds a hole in the wall, a little tiny little spy hole or something, and there's someone in the house. You could even make it the woman that rented the house to her. She could just be a psycho, something like that. But I just think the ghost and then telling us and then showing us, it was too much. I don't need you to hold my hand that much in a book.
See, I used the word, I was trying to be diplomatic. I used the word underdeveloped. And I feel like every aspect of this story is underdeveloped. If you do consider Middlewest, now Middlewest was obviously an 18-issue story. But even the first arc, he had like the dad, the son, and his little fox friend. Like, you had a little bit of backstory, a little bit of context of what the character was like. I don't think any character, including Ro in this, or Rowena, that was the only layer of anything we got from her, that she didn't like the name Rowena.
Yeah, and that
there
she
was
had
nothing.
Artist block.
Yeah, and the ghost or the monster or whatever, he made a reference to him being very old, didn't he? Like, you'll be surprised how old I am or something. There was no real kind of, it wasn't enough there to get your teeth into for any character in this book. And include the house as well. Like, why was the house haunted? Why that house? As you said, like, was there a murder here hundreds of years ago or whatever? Like, what's the reason why this particular house is haunted? And even the fact that the Halloween scene that you brought up, Connie, like, should they like have a few kids like try to go to the house, like egg their friend on, go to this house for trick or treat, and she's waiting over a bowl of sweets, try to give it out and whatever else, and something happens, whatever. Just give us a little bit more for every aspect of the story, and that's where I feel this story lets itself down for me, because it didn't give us a lot, but then it went from like 0 to 100 fairly quickly. The fact that she was willing to give herself up for this monster, and then straight away, once she'd done that, now here comes the possessive, manipulative, abusive boyfriend. I mean, is that what it is? Lover, whatever. It's just, it became too weird too quickly.
Because it wasn't even like Stockholm syndrome or anything. Like, it wasn't like she wanted necessarily to like be there because she was being held hostage and then fell in love with the demon. Like, the demon kind of came to her and then was just not letting her go. Like, was kind of like manipulating her into staying. Like, the one day she was going to leave, he made her this gorgeous big dinner. Like, it's like, it would have just loved like a bit more depth in their relationship as well, because I feel like a lot of it was skipped by the children of the season. Like, it sort of was like, oh, it's Halloween and we're having a creepy movie night, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's Christmas and we haven't left the house in weeks. Like,
yeah, it's like even that part where he made her the meal and she wanted to go out to get art supplies, I think, and she's like, okay, I'll order them online. Like, have more things like this where she doesn't realize it, where us, the reader, realize, well, this guy's now starting to be a bit possessive and whatever of her and so forth, and there just wasn't much of that. And can I also add, About Time is a terrific movie and a very underrated movie. Please tell me you've seen it. About Time? No? Oh, come on. It's the one, what's his name? Little ginger actor, Gleason. I forget his name. And he, like, his family, all the males in his family have this power to, like, do this. And then they go back in time. There's certain times frame, and it's your woman Rachel McAdams. You need to go back and watch it.
I don't know. You say ginger character, I'm thinking of Ron Weasley. I've watched Harry Potter this week.
No,
so I'm like...
this guy's in Harry Potter, but he plays like an older He plays the oldest Weasley brother in one of the later movies.
okay. Yeah.
It's a Brendan Gleeson. It's his son. He's an Irish actor. I did say earlier on that we will be surprised if Connie manages to stay the entire length of this episode. She clearly has
well.
She done well.
39 minutes. I mean,
39 minutes in, and
a long time.
Hopefully, she can make it back in time to give us her score, and then last. We've got 20 minutes to go. We're fine.
I think she's just doing what the book did. She gave us 30 minutes of words, and the next 20 minutes she's going to be completely silent, just like this book.
30 minutes of words. Like I said, I read this in 15 minutes. You know, it was so easy. Like, it was just the fact that, hey, she's back. Hey, Connie.
Hi. Sorry.
It's okay. It wouldn't be the same if you didn't.
No, has to happen at least once.
Exactly. Hopefully that's it. Just want to say hello to Highland G. He's jumped in. Hey, everyone. But yeah, I do feel disappointed, if I'm being honest, because this team could easily do more with this book and still fit in 5 issues. And it's not like SKOTTIE Young and Jorge Corona. I can't blame the art, I suppose. It's not like they're not like established, seasoned creators. They can do this thing. They've done it with MIDDLEWEST. They've done it with some of the Marvel books. And I wonder, because this is a 5 issue and there's been no talk of a second volume. There's been no talk of anything else. I'm wondering, is this one of these books that during COVID pandemic lockdowns, whenever the comic industry shut down for 3 months, is this one of the ones where they just thought, we'll throw something together very quickly and get something out? That's how I get. That's the impression I get with this, that they just kind of got together, hashed something out really quickly, and got it released to try and get books out again. Because I say it was shut down for 3 months, nothing was being created. So
I have something that might be a bit controversial to say.
Say it. We love controversy in this show.
I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think I've ever really been that impressed by a SKOTTIE Young comic. Like, ever.
Is his writing style, like the way he writes, or like he says, art, I have to go home? You know.
I think the strength really lies in world building for SKOTTIE Young as a writer. Like, the Middlewest world is so interesting and is so dynamic and has so many different layers. But I always find that the characters are a bit like two-dimensional. And again, in this world, the world could have been the most interesting part if we had more issues and it was more developed and we had more time getting to know this world and the intricacies. Like, is this the only house that's haunted? Is this the only creature of its kind? Like, it could have been opened up so much more. But Rowena was incredibly one-dimensional and the story was very rushed into 40-odd pages of text. Like, it's kind of like I'm yet to be blown away. I get why people love his art. His art's really cool, really unique, it's really identifiable. Jorge Corona's art in any book that I've read by Jorge Corona has been really interesting, really identifiable. But I don't know, I'm yet to be blown away.
Tell me, Shane, did SKOTTIE Young write and draw I Hate Fairyland?
Yes.
Yeah, so he built the world.
That's his
there.
world, yeah.
See, have you read Strange Academy, Connie? Is it Strange Academy for Marvel? For me, it's very character focused.
Okay.
So and SKOTTIE Young writes that. I'm pretty certain.
Is it good?
I like
those
it.
are, but those are established characters.
Oh no, they're not. They're all youngsters. They're all youngsters.
Oh,
they're
okay.
all new characters. It's like the what was the Gotham Academy? It's the same thing. You have this school of the young superhero stroke supervillains all together, and SKOTTIE Young does that. He's done a really good job, I thought. Anyway, some characters got more layers than the other. There were a few one-dimensional characters, but in that, but he obviously focused on just the few main players. But I do think he's capable of it. This is why I feel disappointed with this. The fact that you have.
I wonder, is he one of those authors though that's made like one absolute banger, and everybody now holds him in this really high esteem, and then convinces themselves that they really love his stories, when in reality most of his stories are just a bit mid. Like, there's a couple of other authors I've come across that I know are some people's like tried and true favorites, so I won't slander them too much. But like, most of their stories are mid. Like, they're all right. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm being quite mean.
Yeah. You're not. Me personally, I prefer SKOTTIE Young's art to his stories. I mean, I Hate Fairyland. I mean, I like the first volume. We read the second. I don't think we read the third, did we, Shane? for
No, not yet.
the second volume dramatically downhill compared to the first. But the first relied on that kind of impact, the kind of something completely different. But the art throughout the whole series was really, really good. I love that style, even though it's quite kiddish and whatever. But I prefer Scottie Young's art as opposed to his writing style. But I do get what you're saying. But he will always get good jobs because he does things like Strange Academy that do hit certain points throughout. So
I think Triple G might be right there with his comment. He says it feels like a vanity project for Scottie Young. And I think, I think that might be like a cross between that and, like you say, not getting books out. So they just get, does anyone have an idea that we can do in 5 issues? And he's like, yeah, I've got this story. Because I think if he sat down with an editor, someone who could, if do editors exist anymore? I mean, the comics we read lately, I have no idea if there's such thing as an editor anymore because they just put whatever they want in a book. But
there's
you need someone
for this. Interesting enough. Yeah.
They didn't do their job. But you just need someone brain.
And Kent, somebody, I can't pronounce the second name.
Name and shame. Name and shame them. Because they might be editors, but you need an editor brave enough to tell a named artist or a named writer, cut back or add. You need, I'm the the editor's job is to get the best item out, whatever it is, whether it be words or art. It's my job as an editor to get the best thing out. So I've got to tell you to take things out. I've got to tell you to simplify things or explain things. And if they're not willing to do that, then they need to hire better editors.
But then, like Phil said, this might be a COVID victim book where they were just happy that somebody was giving them something because they really needed to build the company back up. Like, because I'm sure comic companies took massive hits during COVID, and then there was the paper shortage, and then there was like issues with sourcing ink and all of that. But then when they then pull in big names like Scottie Young, they know people will buy it. There's diehard Scottie Young fans out there. I've met a couple of them in the comic book community who will literally buy and collect anything Scottie Young's name is on. Like, it could be a blank variant and they would buy it because his name's on the front cover. So like, they know that people like this and this creative team are going to bring people back. It's going to pull them in and get them going to their local comic shops, just after a pandemic. It's going to get them buying copies again. So they maybe aren't going to be that tough on them because they're kind of like, how to write a story. It's fine. Just give it to us. We need to print something. Let's go. Like, while we have a block of paper, let's get it printed.
Allow me to be controversial this time. I think you're right. I'm not saying for this particular story, but in general, like comics, I think rely on the names too much. And Hyden G said the same thing here. Says it felt like a lot like felt like a lot of the indie Tinian books to him. Nice concept, but not so interesting in execution. I think there's certain names, Tinian, Scottie Young, even to an extent Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
Because Scott Snyder has a lot of stories that are like meh, but they rely on the names to get books out there. Because I do think they're struggling to kind of get good stories at the minute, and they're not willing to give like younger, hungrier, creators the chance to kind of flourish. They're relying on the big names because they know it gets the numbers, and especially for the COVID times, whenever they really did need to get books out there, they needed the money come back in. They needed that. I'm not saying correct, but just I have that theory. I do feel let down because a lot of the books I felt let down by in the last couple of years have been from bigger names, Tinian being one of them. Even Donny Cates, I was a big Donny Cates fan, but his stuff in the last 2 years has been a bit of a letdown. And I'm not saying Scottie Young has let me down with this. I just thought, again, bigger name could have easily
expect
done
more. Yeah, when you hear a certain name, you expect more. It's like, can you imagine if someone said, "Oh, there's a new Alex Ross variant coming out," and then you pick it up and it's a stick figure because he just couldn't be bothered and no one checked him on it. Like, you would be disappointed. You would be like, well, I expected an Alex Ross cover and you gave me something I can do. Like, just like, that's what I feel with Middlewest being so good. And I personally love I Hate Fairyland. I love the world he's built. I love the characters in it. I was expecting more, and it's a great concept. I have nothing but good things to say about this concept. I've watched hundreds of films with this concept because it's great. Single woman moves into a house and it's haunted. You can't go wrong.
That's the thing. Like, you're correct what you're saying. Like, this is not a new original idea. This has been done countless other times. So give us your version of it, like, because you've given us the bare bones of an idea we already know about. So do something slightly different. And I don't think he did. And he had the room to do it.
And I think he really missed the shot.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you put a book out with a name as big as Scottie Young, there is a level of expectancy there. And unfortunately, if you don't hit those levels of expectancy, they stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Because again, comparing it back to another one of my picks, because it's probably the last books I actually read because it was the last time I remembered it was Wednesday. But like even looking at witches, same length, so much more was done, and then it was set up at the end in a similar way that there could be another volume. And because people enjoyed it so much, there is going to be another volume. Apparently, eventually, when Scott Schneider and Jock get round to it. But in this, I feel like it could have had the opportunity for more if these pages were utilized better, and they weren't because
I feel like
it's not wasted.
Scottie Young may have ideas for a second volume, but I wouldn't imagine many people would pick it up after reading this. And that's, I hate to be too harsh, but there's nothing on this book that would sit with me for any length of time. I'm not going to remember it. There's no memorable moments apart from the hello Ruth. It's just there's just no
marionette.
It's a very forgettable story, but we'll get more into this when we're giving our verdicts. I was let down, disappointed, but for the 15 minutes it took me to read it, I still enjoyed it. For those 15 minutes, even if you had like a short attention span, I feel like you could get this in one sitting and enjoy it.
Okay, but we're lucky we got to read this in a trade. Can you imagine picking this up in singles once a month? Can you imagine would you continue? Would you feel you were getting your money's worth if you read?
No.
All right, the first issue does. I think it's issue 1 and issue 5 have the most words per page ratio. So it's 2, 3, and 4 that have the fewest. So by issue 3, and you're realizing, hold up, half of this book, all right, it's great art, but there's no words in this book. You're not pushing the story forward because you're not telling me anything. Can you imagine the annoyance of reading it monthly?
To be fair, I have the single issues, but I didn't read it as it came out. It was one of those things I got with the intention of reading down the line.
Are you the Scottie Young fan that Connie
you got because it was Scottie Young?
To be fair, I can't even tell you why I did. Maybe it was because it was Scottie Young, and I'm not even a big Scottie Young fan, but it was a name. I thought this could be a hit. This could be
it was
a TV show in the line. Yeah.
Don't feel bad. Just admit it. It's fine. You're among friends. You can tell the truth.
You can talk about your Scottie Young obsession. It's okay.
I do have a Scottie Young short box, but it's all for his covers, his baby covers from Marvel. They're spectacular. I don't care what anyone says. I love them.
I like his cover
DC covers. Yeah, I want him to do some DC. I want to see his Wonder Woman. Oh, I want to see his Wonder Woman so badly.
They would be good, but I don't see him jumping ship anytime soon. But yeah, I think with this story, we're all on the same page, effectively. So I wonder if our scores will reflect that. Folks,
is that page we're on wordless, or are there words on the page that we're all on?
They are pictures of us on the same page with no narration, nothing. Yeah.
With little comic books and a white line going behind us. That's what it is.
It's exactly what it is, 100%. So, folks in the chat, if you have read this week's book, drop your score in the chat. We'll gather at the end, add up of ours, and we'll see where it comes in the all-important leaderboard. But let's get to our verdicts. So, Connie's here, and we don't know how long her internet's going to last for. Do you want to take it off, Connie, and start us off?
Yeah. So I always think of Jeff Lemire when this happens, when a book starts really well, kind of drops, and then it kind of picks up towards the end. Like, I always think of it being like a bit of a Jeff Lemire effect, because that happens in his books too. So I loved the start, loved the premise. The idea was great. The execution, however, could have been utilised a bit better. I think this comic was really wasted. Like, this concept was wasted on this comic, because now they can't really redo it, and I would love them to be like, actually guys, scrap that, we're going to redo. And that title, wasted on this book, that's such a good title. The Me You Love in the Dark, that's such a good title. It makes me want to read the book. And now I've read it, I'm a bit, The art, great, really creepy, give me like Coraline energy, spooky, eerie, great. But in terms of the fact that we only got 40 pages of words in a 100-page book, kind of left me feeling a bit like, ugh, all right. So I'm going to give it like a 5.5 out of 10. Slightly better than average, but I feel like after our talk, I feel like I was going into this and it was a 6.5, but after we've talked about it, I'm kind of like, I actually don't think I enjoyed it as much as I told myself I did.
To be fair, Connie, I'm in the same boat. I have reduced my score what I thought I was going to do after we've spoken about it. But don't worry, don't be apologising for a 5.5 because, as you can see in the chat, it's not the lowest. Shane?
Let me just give Scott's points. Give Scott's score really quickly first because he did send me a message as he was out the door. He says, it's a great creative team as usual, but the art outweighs the dialogue heavily. The art is lovely and the story is easy to follow. The relationship was weird and it made me feel weird. So it's a 6 from Scott.
6. All right.
It left Scott feeling weird, itchy and uncomfortable. It's like, yeah.
Let's see why.
Yeah, for me, like I said, when I like my initial thoughts, it was weird. It was interestingly weird, but it just doesn't hold up when you discuss it. Like if I had just left, if I hadn't have had this conversation, my score probably would have been a 6 as well because I was like, I had a 6 in mind. I was like, yeah, it's a 6. It's slightly better than average. It's not terrible. I enjoyed some bits, but now talking about it, you realize just the flaws of this book and what it could have been. I think that's the biggest ouch for me is what it could have been, because the premise is great. Like I said, you had the opportunity to make it creepy. You had the opportunity to have it be a nice slow build to something, and you chose the easy way out at the end of every issue because you had to end on something to draw someone into the next issue. I think this could have benefited from being a trade rather than singles, because then you wouldn't have had to have done that. You could have done that slow build, but because you have to bring someone back for issue 2, 3, 4, and 5, you have to end on something like a cliffhanger, and I think that is a big downfall for this book. So for me, unfortunately, as good as the art is, and as much as I love Skottie Young, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm not going to read it again. I'm not going to read on if they bring another one out. So it's a 5 from me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Connie.
It's okay. I don't like it that much either. I'm just trying to get my TBR down. This was just the next one on the list.
So we had to suffer just so you could get...
Yes. I need motivation to read books, Shane. There's so many.
I'm so glad we can provide the motivation, but with books like this, that may wane.
Yeah, keep them to yourself. Yeah. Use them as doorstops, just if you have to
go pick something worse next time.
Yeah. Martin?
I'm coming in behind Connie and Shane with the same opinion, really. You know, as much as I like the artwork wasn't enough to save this book. It lacked depth. I really didn't care about any of the characters, and I don't ever say that, but I didn't care. I don't really care what their names are. That's how little I care. It was the premise was good, and I liked the little addition of, you know, the abuse side of things that was brought in. I thought that was a nice little touch, but it would have benefited with more depth. I thought the sorry, losing my words a little bit now. The sex scene, they could have been completely cut out. I would have preferred it if they just skated up close to it and then backed off to give you that little hint of that was potentially where it was going. But again, it all comes down to the lack of dialogue. I love Skottie Young's covers. I love his artwork. I'm not a Skottie Young fanboy, but this sucked, unfortunately, on the writing. The artwork saves this book. I am going to go exactly the same as Shane. This is a 5 for me. This is not bad. This is not great. It's just borderline average, and it's the artwork that saves it.
Yeah, which is a shame, but for me myself, I'm not too dissimilar to what you're going with, and I think Shane summed it up. I say summed it perfectly, but I completely forgot the way he worded it. It's just, it could have been so much more. This team didn't deliver for what it could have been. Connie, I do have something to say. You said you thought it was a really good title. I have a problem with the title.
Why?
Me, You, Love in the Dark. It's like, why are comic book titles becoming so long? Like, something is killing the children. We only find them when they're dead. Just give us
it's the same with like
And
novels as well. Novels are going that way too. Like I picked up a novel the other day that's called like The Children of Shadow and Bone or something, and like it's that sort of like it's to give a mood. It's a literary choice. Phil.
Do you not think though it's just a very simple title for a very simple book? You, me, love, in the dark.
In the
All
dark.
it's missing is in a house with some paint
Until I get aggressive.
And a corpse.
They might as well just called it The Artist and the Demon in the Dark. Like,
yeah, do that. Yeah, I mean, the other issue is I keep calling it you, me, love in the dark as opposed to the me, you, love. Do you know what I mean? I keep getting the me and the you mixed up.
Then is it referring to the fact that she doesn't love him in the light? Like, at the end, when she's, like, trying to, like, open the windows and try and see him, and her whole thing is, I can't even see you, and, like, all of that. Like, she only loves him in the dark.
Well, that's the other thing, too, that kind of marks it down for me is the fact that this book is open for interpretation, but yet it doesn't give you enough to develop your own interpretation of the book. And nor does it lead you a certain way. It's a very simple concept, which may be good and all, but it's been done a million times before, so give us something different with more depth and whatever else. The art does save it, man. I like the art. And I'm going to go a little bit above Martin and Shane and just follow where Connie's at, because I was going to give it a 5. I was at a 6, and I thought a 5, but you know what? That laugh out loud moment, that's given an extra 0.5 for me. So I am going 5.5 with this. So slightly disappointing. It is a forgettable book, unfortunately. The point Shane made, I agree with, is that had you read this book and left it to the side and didn't talk about it, it would have scored higher. That's where I was with as well, because I finished up thinking it was all right, wasn't too bad, but the fact that we discuss it in depth when there was no depth is the problem. So I've given it a 5.5. Scott gave it a 6. Shane with a 5. Martin with a 5. Connie has given it a 5.5. And we have some scores in from the chat. Sean, Panels on Half Pint, give it a 4.5. More style over substance for him. Pete, I think this is less average, so it's a 4. And Highland J, I wasn't a fan of the story execution, and for me, the art didn't help. It's a 4 as well. So yeah, those scores together, it gives the herd average of 4.5. Add them with us, the rest of the guys here, it gives us an average of 5.2. It isn't too bad, but
it's still
it
still
average.
means it's better. It means it's on the plus side, so that's good.
But is it going to make the top 10? Definitely not. Obviously, we know now it's getting harder and harder to make the top 10.
Definitely not.
So doesn't quite knock Fantastic Four full circle away from 7.9. It comes into this section where it's going to quite low down. What's
our first 5.2?
No, 22nd. Above Battle Pug War for Christmas.
But below Snot Girl Volume 2.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking 5.2 isn't that bad, but when you put it in that kind of company, we obviously did not like this at all, did we?
Yeah. Tragic is the word you're looking for.
Which is a shame. But, I mean, sometimes if you read books that we don't like, it makes us appreciate the books, the actual good books down the line. So if you haven't read this book, and you listen to our thoughts, now you don't have to read
10 minutes.
Well, yeah, that's true. It won't take you that long, but if you don't want to waste those 10 minutes, you don't have to, because we've told you, don't bother, basically. Yeah. So that's us for this week. Unfortunately, I do not see a image for Kevin this week. Is there a video for Kevin? Do we know? Come up tomorrow? Sorry, Kevin. Again, this is what happens whenever the leader of the pack is not here. But if there's not a video for Kevin, or if there is a video for Kevin, it'll be tomorrow 7 p.m. as per usual. And if there's not, go back and watch his back catalogue of stuff, because he's great at what he does, and we look forward to it every week. But now we can go back and watch it all. Coming up next week, though, we do have another read, which is the start of our annual sequels month. So we're going to let you know in advance.
Oh, thanks, Connie.
Yeah, that was good.
It means that I finally get to finish some books, because I always feel bad reading ahead.
Yes, but this is that's true. But this next week's
It depends on the sequel.
Well, this is the thing. I know you've read this. I know you'll enjoy it. So
Okay.
here we go. Let's see what's up next week. That's right. Sequels month kicks off with Deadly Class Volume 3, The Snake Pit. Which, if you haven't read the first 2 volumes, now you'll have to have three books before next week. And I think, Martin, you're in that camp.
Yeah, don't worry though. I'm gonna chat. I'm champion, so I'm gonna fly for it. I have a readathon this weekend.
Do you have the oversized hardcover for this?
No.
Okay. I've read up to Volume 3 of Deadly Class, but I have the oversized hardcovers which need cracked open, so I'm looking forward to that. Connie, I know you've read this book, I believe. I'm not sure.
I've read the entire series of Deadly Class.
At least now you'll have to even read it for next week, just appear in the chat.
I definitely won't, because I'll forget it's Wednesday again, forget to reread them. So I'll rely on my Goodreads review for next week.
I will advise you. I'll let you know on Tuesday.
But it's Wednesday.
Yeah. But yeah, it's issues 12 to 16 for this volume, so you have 16 issues to read for next Wednesday to join us live in the chat. But we will see how it goes. And Scott's very looking forward to his sequels leaderboard becoming fuller. So yeah, look forward to that. There's only one thing left to do, I believe, and that is get your waves out. See yous.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.